Welcome to this week's episode of the Proper Crows podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you may be joining us at the moment, your support is very much appreciated. Of course, in today's episode, we'll be going through the demolition of Essendon from yesterday afternoon, a preview of the upcoming match with Richmond, your feedback on the game, and much, much more. Not just myself here, as always. I'm joined by Matt. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, pretty good. Very comprehensive win yesterday against Essendon. It's put us back in the top four after Brisbane got rolled against Carlton. And yeah, very pleasing debuts as well, which we'll touch on later.
Absolutely, we will. And Dose, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good to be here. Like Matt said, a very comprehensive win, one that I think met all of our expectations and what we wanted to see, which is great. And yeah, somehow still in the hunt for top four, which feel like we've been in of and out of about 5 times in the last 5 weeks. So yeah, or hopefully onwards and upwards from here.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. So the score from yesterday was Adelaide 23-7, 145, Essendon 11-7, 73. We just did the job. Phil kicked 5, Rankin Keys and Billy Dowling kicked 3 goals. Taylor Walker, Joshua Shelley, Cal Archie with 2, and Oscar Ryan, Archie Ludowick, and Hugo Hulkahan all kicked their first goals in a very satisfying manner. The ins this week, we were littered with ins and outs. We had Keane, Archie, Cook, Dowling, Ludowick and Ryan come in. For Miller, Berry, Finbar, Peatling, Toby Murray and Nick Murray as well. We'll kick it off, boys. What were our overall thoughts? It was a pretty comprehensive and pretty straightforward, but what did we think?
I mean, it's probably about as strong a performance as you would expect against a team like Essendon, who are obviously struggling down the bottom, and we've obviously been in that position. But after about the first 5 minutes, it really settled into a rhythm of total domination from siren to siren. I think that was probably the most pleasing bit, and it was just comprehensive. I mean, I was having a look before at the numbers, and we won every score source. We won scoring from every single part of the ground. We beat him in just about every key stat. It's probably as comprehensive a win as you could hope for, with some great performances from some young kids, and I think that's the sort of performance that you expect from a top 4 side. We said last week that there was really not much to gain out of this game. It was a get over there and get the job done and get it done as handsomely as possible, and then obviously with the events of Saturday night with Brisbane going down the way they did, it opened up a bit more opportunity for us, and was kind of sitting there halfway through the second quarter just waiting for us to put the foot down a little bit and boost that percentage, and that really came from about halfway through the third, which I thought was really encouraging. So yeah, just a box ticking performance. This is what you'd expect from a top 4 side, and admittedly what you'd expect from the Crows in the last couple of years as well. Just these sort of games have never really given us too much trouble, and that showed on Sunday.
Yep, 100%. Matt, what about you, mate? What were your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, look, it was pretty inevitable we were going to win. Started off a little shaky. I think we were down by about 7 points halfway through the first quarter, but after that, finished the quarter with 7 goals. By halftime, the game was over, and got to enjoy 3 goal kickers from 3 players that hadn't kicked goals before, and Hugo, the debutant Oscar Ryan, and the other debutant Archie Ludowick. So it was all around a very enjoyable game. I think it was the perfect game to give these kids an opportunity to really shine. I thought Oscar Ryan was very impressive. I didn't really know much about him. I think a lot of people had sort of doubts whether he was AFL standard or not yet. But I think he's proven a lot of people wrong, and I really do look forward to watching him play while Miller is out for the next few weeks with an injury, because I think he's definitely earned his spot.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, mate. And I'll put my hand up and say that I was a doubter of Oscar Ryan. I didn't think that he'd perform that well in the SANFL to justify a spot, but came straight in and played the role really well. Obviously kicked a goal, but was good other than that as well down back, and his rebound was really nice, I thought, as well.
I think you've also got to, again, the ability of these kids to come in, and regardless of the fact that it's Essendon, it is an AFL side. For these kids in their first game, it's a step up from the level that they've been playing at for the last couple of years, and for them to execute the way they did, regardless of the opposition, I think was really, really impressive. And Oscar Ryan was an emergency those last few games of 24 and never got a look in. I think I'm somewhat surprised they gave Ludowick a debut this year. I really thought they were going to leave him on ice. I'm really glad they did give him a debut, but I'm really surprised that they did, and both just came in and looked great, which is really encouraging regardless of the opposition. And I've been a big believer in you need to play a couple of these kids at all times. It's how you stay a good side. It's what what all the good sides do over a period of time, and to see us give these kids a game where traditionally I think we would have looked to a proven a type, a Scholl or a Jones or those kind of players, I think is extremely encouraging and a big step in the right direction. And yeah, full credit to both of them. They look great on the day. So yeah, there's not really too much else to say in that regard. I think they're the most impressive part of the day.
I think the most staggering stat is we had 3 players that had never kicked a goal that kicked a goal. I can't really recall the time any team has had that. Obviously, not including the expansion teams like a Gold Coast or the Giants, because that would have inevitably happened in the first games. But I'm talking in general, it's a very obscure stat, and it all happened after half time. I think that was probably when it was just more a bit of fun, bit of percentage boosting. I think Essendon, they're very much set in stone to finish bottom 2, and they want to probably eye down a pick 1 this year. They haven't given their fans a lot to celebrate this year, but I think that would give them a bit of hope moving forward. But look, Richmond, another team coming up this week where they have nothing to play for except try and push for pick 1. Don't know how good the actual pick 1 draft pick is because I haven't really dissected too much into it this year. So I think Richmond, who have traditionally been a bit of a bogey team for us in the past, even 2 years ago we somehow lost to them. I think this is another chance to really put the foot down against a team that traditionally and historically haven't had good record against.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of the big takeaways from yesterday as well, and Dose, I'll get you to speak on this a bit. And if you're listening now and want to go check out a very good thread on Twitter at Proper Crows Pod, which Josh put together for us. Transition play and handball play is obviously something we've talked about a lot, well, for the whole year, really. The numbers yesterday were quite good, and we obviously performed very well from it too. So if you wanted to, speak on that a bit.
Yeah, I think we've spoken at length on this podcast about, the meta of the league seems to be moving towards this handball run and gun, and we've seen Sydney really excel at that, particularly in the first half of the year. And I think there's also a danger about you can get too one-dimensional and you can lean too much into one side, and I would argue we've done that too much the other way in terms of too much contest and pressure, and I'm probably saying too much, but too much contest and pressure and not enough focus on what comes next. And that's the bit to me that I've sort of thought we've needed that extra layer added on top of our existing game. I think that's what's going to take a team that has a really strong base of contest and pressure to the next level. We kicked 9 goals yesterday from the back half. It was 9 goals too, which is our best pure scoring return of the season. And we also finished up with our defensive half to forward 50 chains ending at a 40% success rate and D50 to score at 21%. So I think that's our second and highest numbers of the season, which is, again, regardless of the opposition, the intent is what I was really, really interested to see. And I thought we excelled in that. And I mean, I looked at the numbers after the game. It's not really like they popped off the charts. We had 134 handballs and 144 handball meters gained, which are well below AFL average. But we've also said all year that it's not just the quantity, it's about what you do with them. In the clips that we posted on Twitter today, you could see sort of from the outset that there was a real desire to move the ball by handball. There's a period about 5 minutes into the game where Nag gets the ball on the wing and he kind of takes 2 or 3 steps, and you can almost see it's like he's fighting his reaction to hack a kick long, and he ends up handing it back to Cook, who does exactly that. But it's a deep contested entry. It's not a shallow, drop ball. And then with about 8 minutes to go in the first quarter, Mark Keane gets the ball at halfback and he does the same thing. You can see he's lurching at it 2 or 3 times to go and kick the ball, and he ends up getting involved in a handball chain that results in a Dowling goal at the other end. And that was off about 4 handballs. And then there's one more. In the first quarter, we have a forward half stoppage, and there's 3 handballs in a row that actually take that ball nearly back to halfback. And all of a sudden you see Hugo Hulkahan burst from right of frame and get all that territory back. So I think this is really the best version of the Crows we've been asking for. It's not necessarily about a team that's going to run and gun and get over you with handball, but to use it in the way that they did and as effectively as they did, particularly the handball receives from set play. I thought that was a really strong point. Isaac Rankin is becoming really good at, chipping the ball and then running past for the second give. And those extra 10, 15, 20 metres you gain really allow you to move a defense around. And I thought we really exploited, again, an inexperienced defense, but it's something I haven't seen us do all year, which was really, really encouraging to me. So I think it was probably the best I've seen us move the ball this year. Obviously, we've played harder teams and we've moved it, I guess, better against some better teams. But just in terms of getting it from one end to the other, I thought it was really, really exceptional on Sunday afternoon. And I'm hoping that this is something that continues. Obviously, it's not going to be as easy, and you're inviting more risk into your game when you do that. But I think it's something that's necessary to take us to that next level. And I've harped on about it all year that I think this is something we really need to keep pushing and persist with. And it's not going to necessarily be overly pretty all the time, but just that boost of an extra 20, 30 handballs and handball receives a game and what it brings into our game, especially with the likes of a Hugo Hall-Kahan or an Oscar Ryan or Wayne Miller when he's back off halfback, and the damage they're able to provide by changing the angles and the shape, I think is really, really critical. And yeah, it was exciting, I think, to watch on Sunday afternoon. I don't know what you guys thought.
Well,
Yeah,
one name you mentioned that I don't think had a good game was Mark Keane. Seems to be like an annual thing with him where his opponent just gets the better of him and kicks a bag of goals. A lot of those did come from very questionable free kicks. I think in the end, Essendon, 7 of their 11 goals came from free kicks, and I think half of them really just weren't there. There were some really bad decisions, particularly I think in the first half of the game when they were sort of in the contest still. So yeah, look, against a better team, that could have easily been the difference of some really bad umpiring decisions. But, you know, a 72-point win, I don't think the umpires were ever going to overturn a dominant performance like that.
Mark Keane, I think in the first quarter in particular, and I think, I don't know what you guys again think about this, but I think his best asset is arguably his ball use. And in that first quarter, I think, we're not necessarily relying on him to be that shutdown one-on-one defender, but he's definitely that more aggressive defender. And, I thought obviously he had you could say a stinker and hooked in terms of the free kicks that were given away, but overall I thought his ball use was critical in that first quarter. And I like that. I like when you've got a player like that is, not necessarily the mold of the traditional key back, especially when supported by ball ace and was down there and their abilities. So I think it's a nice balance. Yeah, didn't probably have the best game in terms of a one-on-one defender, but for driving transition, I thought that's the sort of stuff that you'll need from him come finals time, which was really exciting.
yeah, no, big time. I fully agree there. I love Keno's attack on the ball and his ability to set us up going forwards. I think when he came back in, what was it, round 10 or whatever it was very evident that we'd been missing that for the first chunk of the season. So to see him come back and still play that game has been really, really exciting. And with those free kicks, I mean, there's at least, I think he gave away 5 free kicks from memory, and I reckon about 3 of them were probably not there. Peter Wright falls down with Mark Keane about a step and a half behind him. Somehow it's free kick against Keane. Didn't really understand it, but that's all right. We're
Yeah.
not going to sit here and complain about the umpires after a 12-goal win. It's all right. We move.
I think when he kickstarts that sort of first quarter chain, we're actually down by a goal, and you can kind of see him. It's over halfway through the first quarter. I don't think we were ever really in doubt that we were going to win that game, but that chain and the mark from Dowling and the goal got us going. I think that's what really kickstarted us, and was probably the first time we'd cut through that defense with any real precision. And it's amazing. You can see him like really trying to bite his action and not kick the footy. That's his instinctive reaction. And to him to be generating that off halfback, if we get that later in the year, I think that's going to be a really big help to our ball movement and getting these guys down back that are able to move the ball out in more ways than one, I think is really, really critical. And then you've got a guy like Hugo Hall-Kahan, who's just an absolute phenomenon. There's a play, I think it's in the third quarter, where he goes to sort of kick the ball around his body, gets smothered, picks the ball up, handballs over his head, and it results in an RG mark in the forward 50 and a shot on goal. So, more of that, please. So yeah, just for me, it was the most complete, I think, transition performance of the year. We talk about our stoppage and our contest. I think that's the next layer that's critical for us to add going forward. And hopefully we see it maintained this week against Richmond. And then by the Freo game, it'll be a almost second nature by then. I have 3 weeks in a row of really playing that more attacking brand.
I think with the
for sure.
with the Freo game coming up, and it seems like I mentioned the Freo game pretty much every week. It's sort of we're getting closer to that date. We'll get a win against Richmond, likely stay in the top 4, coming at the end of that round, and then it comes down to that Fremantle game. If we can get a win there, virtually consolidate top 4, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of ourselves because we know what happened 10 years ago against West Coast. We got the Giants last game of the year, and they potentially have to win that game to make the top 10. So it's I'm sort of hoping that earlier that day Carlton beat Freo, get the 10th spot secured, and then we'll probably beat the Giants that night. So there's that to rely on as well. But I think it's a home game we should win anyway. Obviously getting too far ahead of ourselves 1 week at a time sort of thing. But yeah, the Freo game, that's it's going to be a very interesting one. We know we're the only team that's beaten City at the SCG this year. Could we potentially be the only team that beats Freo in Perth this year?
Yeah, I think it's the two. I think this week and past and this week coming up are 2 weeks that we obviously need the 8 points and a bit of percentage, but you're looking at stuff that you're eyeing off those last couple games of the year, and then the finals upcoming and seeing some of the more positive signs. I think these 2 weeks and rebuilding the confidence that was shot after Collingwood. I don't think the Essendon win makes up for those sins against Collingwood, and we discussed those at length last week. But I think rebuilding confidence heading into those last 2 games of the year, that game is done now. We just got to hope that we've learned from it. And building into this back end of the year, even Filth, I thought like well, we're obviously going to talk about all this, but Filth through the ruck, Curtin, CBAs, Ranks really playing as an all across the ground midfielder, the kids coming in, all of that stuff I think builds towards those last couple games of the year, which will be critical for us whether we finish top 4, top 6 or top 10. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's like you were ready to go on to the next spot, mate. Through in the ruck was my next point that I had on the run sheet. I liked it. I thought he looked good. There's obviously a lot of debate as to whether he should be a full-time, full forward, keep him up there or move him through the ground. What did we think? Because it worked well yesterday, and granted, the opposition wasn't incredible, but how did we feel about it?
personally, I think he's probably I mean, I know we've experimented and we've had a genuine second ruck sitting on the bench, but to me, I quite like the idea of Filth playing as a second ruck. I think that's on a couple of fronts. One, we saw last year, and we've seen a bit this year that against some of these better teams, the 3 tall forwards don't necessarily work and gel as well as they should as a permanent fixture, and a lot of that's due to defensive half pressure. They're not exactly the best pressure players. I think what Filth in second ruck allows you to do, assuming that Tex and Fogg are in the side, is allow you to play a lot of a smaller forward line, allow you to play 2 key forwards a lot of the time if Filth's in the ruck, and it gives Tex a fair amount of minutes as well, whether always he's on the bench or whether Filth's in the ruck and Tex is on the field or Fogg's on the bench having a rest while Tex is up front. So I think that's probably got to be our split headed into September. So there's that aspect of it. And then purely as a second ruck, he's just another midfielder. We've said this so much, but I don't remember seeing a 2-meter tall player being able to do the things he does as smoothly as he does them. Everything he seems to touch turns to gold. He's so clean below his knees. He's such a good user of the ball. He's a great decision maker. He's strong. To me, could really, he looked fully fit on Sunday, and he's gone and kicked 5 goals. So you combine that with the work that he did around stoppage, and to me, I think he's got to be our second ruck. I don't think it has to be McAndrew swapping with Toby Murray on the bench or Finbar Maley on the bench come a big final. I'd feel a lot more confident watching Filth waltz to the centre and Tex coming in at full forward.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. And if he's having games where he's playing that chunk in the ruck and still kicking 5 goals, you can't complain too much. Obviously, took 10 marks around the ground as well. We had a clearance, 400 metres gain, 9 hit-outs. So he just had a solid game. Like, it was an all-around performance from him. And like you said there, he looked fit, which was the most promising bit for me. Like, there was no hesitancy to his game. He looked like he was just flowing naturally through the whole game, which was really, really good and positive to see as well.
Yeah.
For me, I'm more than happy to see Thilthorpe back in the ruck, knowing that Fogarty is in great form before his suspension, comes back in, probably end the year with a good amount of goals to his name, which didn't look likely at the start of the year. But I think playing Finbar Maley and Ibis in the same team, I think we can probably move past that now. I don't think it's the end of the world for either player, but you certainly have to look past him for the time being, definitely. I think Thilthorpe in the ruck yesterday was brilliant. Kicked 5 goals, 10 marks around the ground. So, yeah, it was an all-round great performance. And, yeah, I'm happy to keep it very similar to what we had last year with Thilthorpe, Tex, and Fogg leading the way.
Yep, I strongly agree. And it'd be good to see what's Fogg. Fogg's back next week, isn't he, for Freo? He misses this week
Freo.
again. So, yeah, back next week, which would be a very welcome bonus if we still go in with the McAndrew-Thilthorpe combination. Something that we might need to touch on a little bit when looking at this week's game. Does McAndrew get a rest just before the finals, do we reckon? I know what that means, but does he get the rest?
Well, Ben, the last time we rested a ruck against Richmond, we played Kieran Strachan ahead of Rob 2 years ago against Richmond, same opponent. It's just PTSD I don't even want to think about ever again happening. So on that basis, I don't want it to happen, but I understand if they if they do pull the trigger this week and play Rob. So, look, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I think either way, we win the game comfortably. So, yeah, you might as well before a massive game like Fremantle away.
I was more so thinking about Rob cannoning the ball into the Fremantle. I can't even
Sean
remember if it was the
Darcy.
Fremantle defender before Josh Tracy takes the absolute piss at the other end.
It was Sean Darcy. He kicked
Not
into the
great
other
memories
ruckman.
going on here. But yeah,
No.
I wouldn't be disappointed if Rob gets a game this week. And you don't want to think worst case, but I don't think giving him a run at AFL level before the finals, God forbid something should happen to McAndrew. In which case I'd almost be suggesting Thilf becomes a full-time ruck, but Rob having a game to just get, a run in the leagues and a bit of confidence up, and should something happen to McAndrew come September, at least he's ready. It's pretty obvious to me that McAndrew's playing as, he's not exactly, I don't think fully fit's the wrong word, but you can tell that he's, his first year of consistent league footy's taken a toll on him, as that's to be expected. So I'm hoping that gets a rest this week. It wouldn't be the worst thing for anyone, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. Be interesting to see what they do. And I think Nate's still out for Richmond as well, so they're not really rolling with anyone huge in the middle. So yeah, probably a good idea, as much as we may not like the resulting person coming back in the squad, but that's all right. We'll get behind Rob if that happens.
I'm really big on, to me, the whole Finbar and Toby Murray thing is fine, but I don't quite think we've nailed that fifth bench spot. I think other teams have used it really well.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to necessarily just be a second ruck or another tall. And I understand that we're obviously big on playing tall and, out muscling people. But I think come September and we saw it. Again, we've seen it last year. There's evidence on the board here. Come September, you don't necessarily want the three talls all playing down there at once. They can all be in the side, but I think Thilf being second ruck really allows him to get those, those bulk minutes in, which is what you want from your best players, but also not absolutely drain himself. It allows Tex to get a fair run at things without, ruining him. And you've got, you can run. We've got, again, assuming everyone's fit, we've got Archie, we've got Rochelle, Peatland can run through there. Keys will obviously still be there. Zach Taylor's up there. You've got enough smalls to make it work. So yeah, I just think it's a much better structure for the way that footy's played in 2026, and come finals, I think it'll hopefully really help us.
Yeah, for sure. Strongly agree. Let's move on to Isaac Rankin. You touched on him a little bit earlier and how he's becoming a very much more complete player, specifically around the midfield. 23 touches, 3 snags, 7 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, and almost 600 metres gained as well. Was a fantastic performance from him. And I actually didn't realise he kicked 3 goals until I was writing this run sheet. I knew he kicked a couple. I didn't realise he had 3. But just an all-round performance from him. It's been really good to watch him develop over the last probably 6-week block as he's gone through the middle a bit more, and yeah, has added a new element to our team, which has been really positive.
Yeah, nine contested. Like you said, I got that number wrong. Sorry, did I get that number wrong? Yeah, no, sorry. Nine contested. He ended up with the big clearance numbers, which is great. Damage from those clearances as well in terms of score launches, I think was the thing that I was looking at. Sorry, he's ended up with 7 score launches for the game and 11 score involvements. Both led the Crows. The next highest score launches was 3, and then he's obviously down the back doing all that defensive work, which is what I'm actually looking for at the moment, just to see how strong his defensive side of the game is coming. I find myself looking at that every week. He had 5 intercepts down back in terms of the tackling side of his game, which, you wouldn't necessarily think he's a big tackler. He's had 5 tackles, the second most on the team. It's just the defensive side of his game that he seems to have added this year. And you probably, again, we've discussed this at length, you probably don't get a spot in the Crows midfield if you're not providing a significant amount of pressure, of tackling pressure, of contested work behind the ball, as opposed to, we don't really carry guys that don't bring that side of the game. And we've debated at length about whether or not, we need some extra attack in that midfield. What he's being able to do both ways is he's providing that defensive outlet, and then he's doing absolute damage up forward. 11 score involvements and 3 goals isn't a very common scoreline for a midfielder. So for what he's been able to achieve in that full-time mid-role, I just hope he stays fit coming into the back end of the year. I think that's really going to be decisive for us. And again, a night like Saturday night, I wouldn't be opposed to resting him up forward a bit, give him, that 50% game time in the mid, 50% up forward, just temper it, because then we've got a big few weeks coming up.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And he's obviously going to be crucial to those couple of weeks after that as well. And we've talked at length about how big a game that Freo one is. And if he has a good game in that, you put yourself into a good position to win it. So, yeah, keep building on it, but also just be, maybe a little hesitant this week without being too hesitant and under, not respecting Richmond enough. But we should be right. Should be right
Yeah.
if he plays well. Oscar Ryan was the next person on the run sheet. We spoke a little bit before, but an incredibly impressive debut from him. 19 touches and a goal, and just looked comfortable at the level. I mean, you wouldn't know it was his first game if you didn't know it was his first game, basically. He had a very composed game off the half-back line. I was very impressed with him.
It was very similar to the debut of Hugo Hawker-Hahn. I thought it was an unbelievably clean performance. I don't think he pulled a foot wrong. Every kick hit a target. Brilliant off the halfback. And then the goal at the end of the third quarter is one of the best goals I've seen from a debutant at the Crows. I really, really enjoyed his game. And it's just great to have more depth off that halfback. I think we've got so many numbers now who can play that role. And it's a very important role as well to play, because it's pretty much where the attack starts from if the opposition is attacking and whatnot. So, yeah, it was an unbelievable performance.
Yeah. So he went at 89.5% disposal efficiency, had 8 score involvements from those 19 touches as well, and was just a really impressive game. 3 inside 50s. I mean, he was everywhere. I'm sorry for ever doubting him, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, and I think you look at a player like that, and I've sucked a lot about young kids not getting opportunity, and you watch a game like that and you see the flashes of potential that these kids, like, he is a first round pick, the potential that these kids have. And that's why I'm big on, you need to carry a couple of these guys. You need to back your team into be good enough to be able to blood a couple of these guys on going under 20, 30, 40 games, because they will be the ones in 5 years' time that are doing the same thing for the next batch. It kind of never ends. It's perpetual motion in that regard. I thought, yeah, he was unbelievable, particularly in that third quarter. You could see he really took over. You could, sometimes you can just tell when he's having a lot of fun out there. Everyone was, trying to, it just looked like everyone was trying to make his day as special as possible. Some of the balls he was getting fed and the things he was doing, it kind of just became the Oscar Ryan show, which was awesome. So yeah, he looked really, really comfortable at the level. And like Matt said, we've got a dearth of halfbacks now. They're all slightly different in the way they play, but between Hugo, Wayne, Oscar Ryan, these guys that just keep showing up every week. Isaac Cumming, Luke Nankervis. We've just got this dearth of these sort of halfback wing types that are the modern halfback, that aren't necessarily the best, I wouldn't say, one-on-one defenders, but what they bring from an attacking sense is exactly what the game requires in 2026.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's that range off halfback, I think, has been really impressive. And the hardest bit now is how do you fit them all in the squad? That's the thing that you really have to juggle with having so many, but that's a good problem to have. I
was just going to say, I think it's the same at both ends of the ground with the smalls. We've got this dearth of options now, very similar players in terms of output, very, similar profiles, and then some outliers in terms of what we expect from these guys. I think it's going to be interesting in the back end of the year. Personally, I think the back half looks a lot better without Rory Laird. That's been my take all year. I think it looks a lot more functioning. Everyone kind of looks like they're, playing their role really well. I don't think that Laird role should really exist in our back half the way that we're playing on the weekend. I just think it's going to be very interesting to see how that's managed in the back half of the year. I'm not expecting Oscar Ryan to be there week 1 of the finals. It'd be awesome if he was, and he keeps up the form that we showed yesterday. But you're really one bad game away from getting dropped. I think Hugo's done enough to be there, even if he has a couple of poor games in the next couple of weeks. I would think Hugo Hawker-Hahn's done more than enough to be there. Obviously expecting Miller to come back, whether that's, the GWS game or the first final. So there's a couple to come in. Do they all come in? Does just Wayne come in? Who goes out? And then Max Michelini's played the entire year, obviously a bit deeper in the back line. What happens there? What's happening with the small forwards? They are good problems to have. I'm sure either way there'll be something that people will find a problem with, and I'll be one of them if it doesn't suit what I think we should do or what I want. But it's just they're good problems to have heading into a final series.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, for sure.
I think Laird will 100% play finals. Definitely need that sort of cool, calm leader down back that has played so many games. And look, I do agree we have to probably move past him. I reckon within the next year, way more speed off halfback is probably what we do need. But leading into a final series, I do want to see Laird back. I'd much rather have season players that have had the experience play over a potential player like a Oscar Ryan type. Even though he was great, we do need the best what we have experience wise.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balance. I think there's a bit of both, and I probably lean on agreeing with you there, Matt, in saying that the experience head in a final series is what you're going to be looking for. But the players don't gain experience by sitting on the sidelines at the same time.
Yeah.
So if
And
Lairdy's not ready to go, then you've got people who can fill that role.
I also think we've got these players now. Let's think of a Josh Worrell or a Max Michelini that have actually had that experience. They've played that 50 to 100 games. It's like at some point, and I agree with you, Matt, at some point you need to trust these guys, back these guys into to deliver. You need to make them the leaders. You need to put the pressure on them. So when that comes, I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully it does come.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another name you can toss in there, and obviously he's injured at the moment, but he was a test for this week, is Mitch Hinge. He's on the edge. He's had a crap year in terms of injuries, but um, does he come back in at some stage as well? He's probably not got enough time, I wouldn't say, before the finals to get back into the squad, but he's another one who we know is class off that half back line. So interesting to see what they do with him too.
He won't play again this year, given the options we have now. And look, it's been an unlucky year for him. I think next year, I'm not sure when does his contract expire. Is it going to be re-signed or what's the go there?
That's a
Good
very
question.
good question. Let me just
I'm
The
just
see.
googling
last
it real quick.
the last time I heard he was out of contract at the end of this
Yeah,
season.
expire at the end of 26.
Mm. I mean, if he can't squeeze into this team, he's a good player. But we've got so many players that have come in, like a Hugo, Hawker Hahn, Nankervis type. They've all proven themselves this year. I wouldn't be against seeing the back of him and getting some good money out of this deal.
Potentially, it could come down to that, but I suppose a bit of water to go under the bridge and see if he can get his body right to have any sort of capital to be trading as well. But we'll see how we
Yeah,
go with that.
imagine what you'd get if you traded him after, I don't know, and obviously it wouldn't happen because he was in contract. But last year, where he's come off a great season compared to this year, where he's barely been cited,
Mm.
it's just a shame for him. I think if he was fit, he'd be a fixture in this side. But obviously, yeah, like you said,
Sure.
it's given opportunities to guys like Hugo, and hey, how good's he looking? So can't be too flat with the whole thing.
There's going to
No,
be a handful.
absolutely.
There'll be a handful of defenders that will leave the club at the end of the year that are of good value. I think Jordan Butts, Nick Murray, those kind of players. I don't think they'll be there next year.
I do hope we keep one of them. We've always had four really good keys, and I feel like you need that fourth because one always seems to be injured. And we saw last year, was it Muzz that went out for 3 months and Butts came in and
Yeah.
just absolutely dominated and then kept Muzz in the sandful and then Butts punctured a lung and Muzz came straight back in. So, I just feel like we didn't skip a beat in that regard, which was great. So fingers crossed one of them stays, but I kind of agree with you, Matt. I think both are gone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, one of them might get the chance coming this week with James Borlase hurting his hamstring on the weekend, so he probably gets a week or two off to heal that. So you never know. Jordan Butts might come back in. Murray was obviously in the squad before this week, so both of them have been playing sample. So one of those two probably come in this week.
Be nice to see the reunion of Jordan Butts and Tom Lynch going at it again like last year. It's a great
It would be nice.
bit of entertainment.
Absolutely. Hopefully Tom Lynch can kick straighter this week. Well, actually, no. Hopefully he doesn't kick straighter this week. But watching him against the Eagles yesterday, he has had a shocking year in terms of just kicking in general, which is pretty
You,
bad when you're
you pay
the
me
number one kick.
$1.4 million a year, mate. I wouldn't care either in that side. Done my
No,
deed, won my flags. Just give me the cash.
that's a great point, actually. Very, very fair. Speaking of kicking goals, Archie Ludovic, the other debutant from yesterday, had 9 touches, took 5 marks, obviously kicked his snag in the last quarter, which was very good to watch. He also just looked comfortable at the level. He puts himself into good spots. He leads at the ball well. I love him. Obviously, I've been big on this kid all year in the sample, but it was nice to see that correlate into the AFL side as well, and I'm super excited for his future.
Well, I've been pumping him up all year. I've got the receipts, plenty of messages I've sent on the group chat all year saying play him, give him an opportunity. When you have the size at 18 years old, 197 centimeters, a great contested mark, brilliant lead of the football, and a reliable goal kicker, you definitely are worthy of playing a handful of games in a first season. And he has been brilliant, I thought, in this sample. He's just against South Adelaide about a month and a half ago. He kicked 5 against us. I'm a South
Yep.
fan, obviously, so that was a game that you really look at and think, you know what, there's real potential here. And I did say I wanted either Mitch Marsh or Ludovic to play a few games here this year, try and get some experience. But I think Ludovic is levels above a lot of players that are of, the 18, 19-year-old up and coming tall forwards. So for him to kick a goal, I mean, it was inevitable. I think, by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, Essendon were just nowhere near it. And I did like the way he just led at the ball, as I said before. Great leader of the ball, took a good mark, kicked the goal, and it was just great scenes set in the crowd, seeing his family up and about. So it was just an all-round wholesome afternoon at Marble Stadium, and yeah, it's just one of those moments he'll never forget. And it was good seeing a lot of Melbourne-based Crows fans. And more to the point, all of Ludovic's friends in that bay, they were they were right behind the Tex goal in the first quarter, and they were going off. So yeah, it was. I think I'd say about 100+ people there had some sort of relation to Ludovic, because it was a lot of cheers when he got that goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was just wholesome's a good word to put, mate. It was good, and he's going to be a player for the future, that's for sure. I think even his field kicking, he had a good kick in the first quarter that set up maybe Billy Dowling, I think, from
Mm.
about 75, 80 metres out, I'm pretty sure. But very, very exciting, and good to see him get his goal and really
Yeah,
take the opportunity and grasp it.
unlucky to not kick another one because a certain someone had to fill their coffers, but I'll leave that topic for another time.
Nah, that was a fair call. That was a fair
Yeah,
call. I
no.
think it was the right decision to handball off to him. It's team footy, so good to see that quality coming through the young man himself.
Archer's last quarter was actually his highest rated as well, which, these big guys just take a bit of time to get in at the level. And post game talking about, the game was definitely quicker than what he was used to. I think, you need to expect that with these young guys. And it just goes to show the jump, playing Sandful every week against grown men to then playing against professional grown men in the AFL. There's obviously quite a substantial leap in terms of pace. And that Essendon team is not better than no doubt everyone he's ever played against in terms of a team unit. So, just great experience for him. And I don't think he'll be there week 1 of the finals. I don't think that necessarily matters. I don't think anyone will be disappointed with that. He gets his couple games and does his bit. And keep him hungry and give him a taste at the level. It's really good management, I think.
For sure.
Billy
Dowling.
I was just going to say, I was watching on the Crows YouTube channel. They were doing the whole post game stuff with Ludovic, Oscar Ryan, and that. And Ludovic's daddy brought up a stat. He said Archie was born the week Tex was drafted. So, and then there was another one that just came to my mind. He wasn't even born when Port Adelaide lost the grand final to Geelong by 119 points.
Jeez.
So if you don't feel old now, then surely you do now.
Christ, yeah, that's a stat.
I'm going to cry myself to sleep, mate. Thanks for that.
Would be remiss of me not to say lol 119, lol, etc., etc. Billy Dowling had a very good performance yesterday. 18 touches, 3 goals, 11 marks off half forward. I've got the question on the run sheet. Did he earn himself a contract? Dill was quite harsh on him a little bit earlier in the year after the Brisbane game, and it's been a question for a while. He hasn't been able to crack into the AFL side. It was a very good performance yesterday, and obviously you note the opposition, but it was still very very impressive from Billy.
I don't think it was a Brisbane game. It was the West Coast game, because he's only played the one game this year, I believe.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, no, the 3-goal game. I thought he was really good. I mean, it's as I said, Essendon, they didn't really give a fuck, and it was probably an easy game for a player like that to kind of perform in. But that aside, I thought he's probably done enough to keep his spot in the team. I mean, a 3-goal game from anyone, you can't ignore those numbers. And I think, how many touches did he get? I think about 20, 25.
18. Yeah, 18.
Felt like more, but yeah, I thought he was really good. So, yeah, we can back it up again against Richmond. I think he'll probably most likely maintain his spot in the team. A lot of those players that came in most likely keep their spot. I dare say we'll likely rest some key players that might raise a few eyebrows this week, but in the long run it makes sense. So I do want to see Billy Dowling have another crack this week, and I reckon he can back it up as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think
I think I
he
think
kicked
I
his
think at
first goal
worst
against Richmond, didn't he?
he played himself into a bit more trade currency at worst.
Yeah,
So yeah, Billy Dowling's a bizarre one. I don't really think we as a club have done right by him in terms of opportunity. I
no,
also don't think now it's at the point where I'm not trusting that he's at the level required to be a long term fit for us really in many positions. But at the same time, yeah, you can't sniff too much of that game. It's 18-3 and 11 marks. They don't come around every day. So yeah, at worst, he's maybe an extra round up in his draft pick that we get from him at the end of the year. So.
yeah, no, for sure. We'll move on to some feedback from the listeners on the socials at Proper Crows Pod for anyone listening who might want to jump on and give some feedback during the game this week or at any point during the week. New revamped version of the Proper Classics came out last week, and we'll continue to do that with Matt's fantastic ideas. So that went down very well. But any feedback, anything you're enjoying, anything you want to see, drop us a message, chuck a comment, whatever it may be. We'll get to it. James Payne starts us off by saying a much needed percentage booster, but still a little bit unhappy we allowed the Bombers at times small to dictate the game. Yeah, there were a few little patches where it looked like they got on top, but you're not going to have many games where it's a full four quarter that you're on top, so that's quite all right by me. He also went on to say Oscar Ryan was bloody good. A few weeks ago I had him on the chopping block, but I'd keep him around now. Good to see Ludo getting a run as well. Have really high hopes for him. Also have a proper crap for you as well. The commentary team's glazing of Nate Caddy. You'd almost think he was the best on the ground. Give me a spell. Spot on with everything you've said there, James. I agree with every single thing that you said right there. The commentary was, like he was the second coming of Jesus, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, just he's not that good at the moment. But the AFL need people to watch Essendon games for the cash. So yeah, just glaze him up and make him the next best thing. I guess that's what they do. Yeah. So
I mean,
Pretty much.
in the confinements of how shit Essendon are, he is definitely the shining light moving forward. I'd 100% have him as a Crow, but that's another story. I think I'm more happy having Dan Curtin over Nate Caddy from that draft. I think a certain someone in the chat will disagree, but I think we've got ourselves a very good on ball, and we can talk about Dan Curtin's game because I thought he was really impressive in the middle, and I mean, you can't really compare him to be the next Bont just yet. I mean, I don't think that there will be another Bontempelli anytime soon, but he'll be a very, very good player in that Crows team moving forward in the midfield, I think.
yeah,
I think just
you
the
go,
most
Benny.
wild part about it is the fact that you have another bloke sitting in the forward line who kicks 6 goals, and they didn't give a shit about Peter Wright, but Nate Caddy couldn't do anything wrong yesterday despite only having 8 touches, kicked 3 points, missed a goal from the edge of the square. That's all right. It's Vic Media. We're used to it by now, so it's okay.
Yeah.
AJ says Borlase looks like a bloke who knows he's going to miss a few games, and I tend to agree. He was walking around okay at the end, but you're not going to take a chance with him with a hamstring injury. Obviously, missed pretty much most of the second half. That's all right. He can go and rest up.
Hopefully back for Freo.
Yeah, absolutely, because we'll need him for that one for sure. Kaza says we have to thank Carlton for doing us a favour too, and as much as it does pay me to speak well of Carlton, we do need to give him a thank you for smacking Brisbane on Saturday night. Didn't see that one coming, but thank you very much for your
I think
work.
it goes to show how close and competitive the league really is. 4 weeks is a long time to just, if you're the favourite every week, 4 weeks is a long time to win 4 games. It's, you put the week on week odds together and it's a lot more difficult. The likelihood is they'll drop one at some point and it's hard to figure out where that is. So it doesn't overly surprise me, but I must admit I was surprised it did come against Carlton of all teams. So we probably got Carlton at a good time of the year as well. I'd love to know what would happen if we match up against them in an elimination final or something and they come through the wild card, how that'll look. Because, I think that'd be a really fascinating matchup.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, we go back to the win in 2024 against Carlton and also the win gather round 2023, our first gather round game. Carlton were unbeaten leading into both games, I believe. So, we played Carlton at bad times. We've still gotten the win. So I just think that's I mean, we're definitely a bogey team to them, and that can all change in the drop of a hat. We play them in a high pressure final and they're in a run of form, you never know. But I think I'd much rather play Carlton in the finals than a team like Collingwood or Melbourne.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that.
yeah, absolutely. And lastly, oh, sorry, boys. James Hampton says back in the top four, did exactly what we had to do to jump the Lions. Oscar Ryan, very impressive on debut. Definitely did enough to play next week against the Tigers. Agree. Next up, we will jump onto our votes, the 3, 2, 1s for this week, and it could be a plethora of people that you could give the votes to this week. So, Matt, mate, I'll start with your one. It might be your fantasy captain. I'm assuming is going to be involved in these votes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give the number one to Oscar Ryan. Said at the start of the video, halfway through the video, an unbelievable debut. A lot of people, I mean, yourself included, didn't really think much of him. I didn't think much of him. Haven't really seen a lot of him playing SNFL or anything, and it just seemed like he wasn't going to get that opportunity at all, really. There's a lot of players that you could look at that haven't come into the team that you probably think maybe then they might not be on the list at the end of the year, but he's definitely earned himself a spot. And there's so many players that you can choose to play in that role. Wayne Miller, obviously the best of the bunch, but he's injured at the moment. So for him to come in, play the game he did, kick the goal he did, it was an unbelievable debut. Could not have asked for a better debut from him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Dose, how about you, mate?
I think my one's got to go to Oscar Ryan just for all the reasons Matt said before. It's impressive regardless of who the opposition is to come in as a first gamer and perform to that level. Just really outstanding from him. So stoked.
For sure, for sure. He's probably my honourable mention. He was very close for me, but the top three was very solid. My one goes to Jordan Dawson. Obviously, 30 touches, 9 clearances, a very Jordan Dawson type game yesterday. Just set us up from the middle. Matt, what about your two, mate?
Two will go to my fantasy captain, Isaac Rankin, who made the game very exciting from the fantasy perspective. Unfortunately, I got knocked out, but that's all irrelevant. He was unbelievable. 3 goals. Didn't realise he kicked 3 goals just like you, Ben. I thought he was only 2, but I mean, how many touches did he get in the end? 28, 30?
23.
Yeah.
Again, felt like more. He was just brilliant. Played all around the ground. He was just everywhere. It was, I'd say, probably his overall third best game of the year. Wasn't as good as a Richmond game at the G early this year. Probably not as good as the Suns game the other week. I think it's all very much on par. But yeah, it was a great game. And if he stays fit, I'll say this every week. If he stays fit, very good chance he could be the difference in September.
Yeah, strongly agree. Dose for your two, mate.
I'm going Danny Curtin with the 2. I we've had a stacked run sheet. We haven't even spoken about the performance this bloke had. We've been yelling and crying for him to get in the midfield for months, if not a year and a bit now. And I thought he was absolutely exceptional on Sunday afternoon. He really set the tone in the first quarter. Had 10 touches, backed off a little bit. Only had a few in the preceding quarters after that. But as soon as the game settled down, I think he was he sort of settled out a bit as well and didn't strain himself too much and still looked unbelievable doing it. He had his 5 clearances that really set the tone in that first quarter, and then he's gone and had the 6 score involvements as well, playing out the guts. So for your first game as sort of a full-time midfielder, I thought that was outstanding, and I think that's kind of the wild card heading into the finals. Again, we saw what happened last year with that midfield of, we reverted back to old ways and it didn't really look great. I think that we've got a guy that when called upon can really play the role. He had his 61% of centre bounce attendances as well. I'd love to see him get a few more minutes over a Peatling, for example. I wouldn't actually mind him going in there and we shift Peatling up into one of those high half forward roles to sort of be that extra that comes around contest that worked really well for us earlier in the year. So yeah, just I could rave about him and what I think he could be for ages. I've had a couple of people say to me this week that they actually think he's better on a wing because his bailout contested marking, which again, it's a great problem to have, that you've got this guy that's so talented in so many aspects that you don't actually know where to play him. But I think his best spot with cleanliness like he has and strength like he has is where the footy is at the source.
Yeah, strongly agree. Strongly agree. My 2 votes. Yeah, the voice is going. This is good. Isaac Rankin gets my 2 votes for the same reasons that Matt said. He was just electric. Obviously, the 23 kick three, big difference in the guts. Matt, your 3.
Yeah, 3 goes to Riley Thilthorpe. I would say probably his best game of the year so far. If he can continue this trajectory, watch out, because 2025 Riley Thilthorpe we've been longing to have week in, week out this year. I think that a game like that, playing back in the ruck, I mean, I'm very pro Thilthorpe staying in the forward line, but that was more so when Fogarty was underperforming. Tex was sort of hit and miss getting in out the team. I think now we can just say, look, he's plays his best football as a ruck slash forward. He will still kick bags of goals when he plays forward anyway. So yeah, I was really impressed. I think the Swans game where he sealed the game, I thought that was his best moment for the year, but best game for the year, 100% was against Essendon yesterday. It was a really good game, and yeah, hopefully just praying that he doesn't fall back into the whole injuries and sickness and form drop. I want to see the back of it. I want this to be the string of some very consistent games going forward.
Yeah, strongly agree. How about you, Dice? Who gets you 3?
Yeah, it's got to be Thilth for me. I feel horrible not giving Ranks or Dorse a vote this week, but just feel we'll spread the love a little bit, given the opposition. But yeah, like Matt said, to see him fit and firing is really a sight to behold, and absolutely critical in up it forward and in the ruck come the back end of the year here. So 3 to him.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Phil gets my 3 votes as well. We will move forward to proper good and proper crap. Now, there was plenty of proper goods, but I'll just start with the proper crap, and we touched on it a little bit earlier. The umpiring, the few decisions that went against Mark Keane. But like we said, positivity. We're not going to dwell on the umpires too much. Do either of you boys have a proper crap to shuck in there?
Nothing that surpasses the umpiring. It was nowhere near as bad as the first showdown this year, but I would say it's up there in the top 3 worst umpired Crows games this year. There's been some really bad ones over the years, but I think this one stood out. To give 7 free kicks that result in 7 goals in any game for whatever reason is just absurd, and half of those free kicks clearly just were not there.
Yeah.
Maybe there is just that there has to be something in this where they wanted Essendon to kick a certain amount of goals to make it interesting, but they got blown away anyway, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, as I said, if this umpiring occurred in a game against a team like a Hawthorn, Collingwood, Brisbane, Geelong, we would lose just on the back of sheer incompetence. And the AFL integrity department has to be held accountable. They can't keep on just putting umpires out there that just do not know how to do their job.
Yep. Nah, definitely agree. Dose, any proper craps from you, Matt?
Strong from campaign. I'm not quite that strong with my feedback. Mine was more around this Sunday 4:10 time slot, man. Does my fucking head in. I actually think
Yeah.
if you're not traveling to watch it and you're not coming home on a melancholic flight afterwards catching a vibe like some did yesterday, I actually think it's probably the worst time slot to watch footy. It reminds me way too much of my heyday when I was absolutely hungover on the couch watching us get pumped every week at Sundays. But no, I hate the time slot. I'm glad I don't have to attend it, but it's pretty bleak. And to be honest, I guess for a neutral perspective, that's probably where a game like this one belongs. But yeah, that's pretty crappy from me. And also I hear all this about Essendon being a big club, and then there's more Crows fans at an Essendon home game than Essendon. I'm sick of it. When we were shit, we would get massive crowds every week, COVID affected. But even if they weren't COVID affected, we were consistently pulling mid-30s. I just don't understand how these other clubs that claim to be big clubs, the moment they go through some hard times, drop off so quickly. Because I would say we've been through some harder times than most, and yet we're still standing. So, yeah.
I think when it's this hopeless of times for Essendon, where they've won 2 games all year and there is no light at the end of the tunnel, it does feel inevitable that fans that are hardcore fans like us, some weeks they just might not feel up to it. And Essendon, they haven't won a final in 22 years now. This will be this streak of no finals wins will never be surpassed. I can guarantee it. Gold Coast have won a final. Fucking North Melbourne won a final. like 11 years ago, so that's not even half as bad as Essendon. So you can understand the fans' frustration. You know, they're a big club. They've had some really bad crowds the last few weeks. I think the Giants game had 14K. So yeah, I mean, I can understand why they're not going in big numbers as they would have been in previous years. I mean, I remember going to Essendon away last year at the MCG. I think there would have been about 45,000. So
Yeah.
it's a big drop off, obviously. So, but you know, I do at the same and on the same token understand the fans' frustration and you know how hopeless of a scenario it is where all they're doing is playing for pick one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's all right because it's not us anymore, so it's okay. Proper goods for the week. I'll kick us off with Archie Ludovic and his family and the dad singing the song after the game. I thought that was a great video to see afterwards. Obviously, yeah, like I've said, big on Archie Ludovic, so the whole day watching him play and all of the wholesome moments with his mates on the boundary line and celebrating with Tex was all good for me. That's my proper good of the week. Matt, what about you, mate?
Yeah, proper good would just be the wholesome interaction of all the debutants' families and seeing the dads of Oscar Ryan and Archie get involved in singing the song. Thought that was really good. You don't see that often, so yeah, it was just a beautifully wholesome day. And as I said, pretty much at the start of the video, it was the perfect game to sort of debut and troll these kids in. You know it's a game that we're likely to win. And it's a game that they can also perform to the highest level in show what they're made of. So yeah, Oscar Ryan, Archie Ludovic are my proper good. I think just both of them really had good debuts.
100%. Dose, what about you, mate?
Yeah, obviously the debutantes is a big one. I think one other for me is we had our highest goal assist tally for the year on Sunday. We had 21 assists for 23 goals. So to me, that's
Jeez.
just the system, the transition, the ball movement really coming together. And again, we've talked about the opposition. We've said it at length. It's not about the outcome as much as it is about the intent and the method behind it. To have that much attacking connection to spread the load like we did, to me, that's the most encouraging bit to come out of Sunday. Is okay. There's signs of a second layer that we haven't necessarily seen much, and it's just about sticking with it because we've seen time and time again we go away from it when the heat's on. Hopefully, with a bit of confidence over the next couple of weeks, we can really double down on that attacking connection.
For sure. Into a bit of news, the round 23 and round 24 fixtures were confirmed. So round 23 against Freo that we've spoken about many times at Optus Stadium will be Friday, August 14th at 7:40 p.m. Adelaide time. And the following week against GWS will be the Saturday, August the 22nd at 7:40 p.m. as well. So a big last couple of games for the regular season. And then hopefully 2 wins and book in a top 4 spot. But we're not going to look forward to that yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. SANFL, we went down to South Adelaide on Saturday afternoon, 13-7, 85 to 16-7, 103. Big Finbar went back to the SANFL and kicked 5 snags. Atkinson, Toby Murray kicked 2. Rob O'Leary, Strawn and Cam Tahini kicked 1 goal. Honestly, they're looking at the stats, and I didn't watch it, admittedly. Looking at the stats, no one particularly stuck out in this game. Sid had 19 touches, 4 clearances and 6 inside 50s. Seems to be the norm for him at the moment. That's roughly about what he's getting every week. So not exactly setting the world on fire. But if you look at Oscar Ryan's stats for most of the years, they were probably very similar to that as well. So I'm not going to sit here and bag him. He's not sitting here getting 4 touches a game. It's still a decent amount, but you'd like to see a little more.
Yeah, I mean, league wide, the Sandful is also a lower possession game, and it's a bit different. Normally, we're kind of the exception to that. We generally rack up a few, but yeah, I agree. I'd still, a game like Saturday night or a game like Sunday past, I'm surprised Sid wasn't. To be honest, I am really surprised Sid wasn't brought in instead of Dowling. I understand it, but you've got this top 5 pick sitting on the list. We keep, harping on about the kids, giving them games, especially in, these real, not meaningless games, but these low risk games. It seems like the perfect time to bring him in and build some confidence. But I mean, I don't think we'll see him this year now, pending disaster. I'm hoping he's there next year in, not stuck in a forward pocket. Yeah, it's just, we've talked all year about our midfield woes and we haven't really spoken too much about Sid and what he could do to fix them, which is, disappointing in a lot of ways. And I'm starting to hear the bust word thrown around a bit, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's not been a great start for him through his body, through the opportunity that he's, again, not being given. I'm just a bit worried about where he's headed for a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And it
No, absolutely.
just sort of does your head in a bit. You're seeing how good Jagger Smith is playing for Carlton, and he's likely to win the Rising Star this year. So, same draft, same completely different story to start their careers. But, it is early days, and it takes time for some players to develop. You could have all the potential in the world, all the hype in the world. Some players do take a few years to get their body right, to just understand their role a bit better. And I think Sid is just coming in as an inside midfield, like drafted as an inside mid. It's always going to be a tricky one to perfect. And I think within the next 2 years, we'll see a different Sid Draper. I'm confident about that.
For sure. I think I saw a stat today that at the end of year 2 for Jordan Dawson, I think he played 5 total games in his career and only played, was it maybe, I think those 5 games came in year 2. So, like, it's not, it's not doom and gloom. It's not over. There are people, like those said, calling it as a bust. It's a bit early for that. For mine, I know we're gonna cop a couple of people in particular being like, oh yeah, just getting behind him just for the sake of it. But it's genuinely, if you're writing a kid off at 20 years old after 8 AFL games, an injury interrupted season, yeah, you're probably being a bit harsh. And I know there's pressure on me to pick 5, but just rein it in a little bit just to give the kid a bit of time. But we'll see how he goes in the next year.
Well,
Yeah, before we move on, I think Finbar kicking 5 just goes to show what we were talking about the level difference between the SANFL and the AFL.
For sure.
I was just going to say, there's a pick 5 that is almost leading a Coleman medal that went the draft before Sid Draper and Nick Watson. So, yeah, it's a draft pick that you'd just like to think player will just break onto the scene immediately and dominate. But as I said, not that simple. And I say to those that are just knocking him, he's played 8 games in 2 years. Just give it time. It's not the end of the world, and it will take time for him to come good.
Yeah, for sure. Interestingly, just looking at the hit-out stats for this game as well, Riley O'Brien had 35 hit-outs. The top person for South Adelaide had 9, so he obviously dominated the ruck. But, as you would expect for him going back to the SANFL, so at least if he comes in, he's coming in good form. We'll move on to this week's game. Richmond, of course, Saturday night at 7:05 p.m. kickoff, Adelaide Oval. I don't know how the hell this game got a Saturday night fixture, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm okay with it. It's one of my favourite fixtures of the week. So, big game coming up, but in essence, more of the same as last week. Just go in there, get the job done, hopefully make up some percentage like last week, really, and just continue playing that attacking brand of footy for me. That's all I want to see out of this week. Just go in there and get it done.
I mean, I'm not complaining about the time slot. I loved Saturday night football, but it is a strange one to sort of have Crows Richmond on a Saturday night. Definitely feels more like one of those early Saturday or Sunday games for me. But yeah, look, there hasn't been too many memorable games against Richmond over the years that could justify a time slot on a Thursday or Friday under the lights on Channel 7. But yeah, I reckon. I mean, we're jumping into a prediction. I think this could be our biggest win for the season. So yeah, I just want to see us put the foot down like we did against Essendon, maybe rack up a bigger winning margin and maintain our spot in the top 4, because the Freo game next week, if Fremantle have top spot wrapped up, it's a very good chance we could be that first team to beat them in Perth. I don't think they'll have a lot to play for, unlike us. So I'm very optimistic. We get a big win this week. Freo beat Melbourne this week. They win the home and away season, and then Freo away becomes very winnable. And yeah, it's not a game I expect to win either, but yeah, I'd be very optimistic leading into it if those circumstances flow.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything there. It's one of these games, no injuries, get a big win on the board, just tick it off and move to the next one. We don't want to underestimate any week, but we've all realistically got one eye on next week. So, just get the job done, get it done in a big way. Nobody get hurt. Let's keep up the positivity that we saw from Sunday style, and roll on the Dockers. I agree. 7:10 kickoff Saturday night for this one's a bit bizarre. So.
I think, and also, I mean, I don't think it helps, but it does help that, Richmond just won a game. Their players, they've had 3 wins all year. It's inevitable the young lads will just be on the piss all week, not really giving a fuck, knowing walking into Adelaide Oval against the Crows who are eyeing a top 4 spot, it's pretty inevitable they're going to get pumped. So, yeah, I think they've got virtually nothing to play for. We've got everything to play for, and yeah, this it could be an absolute ugly scoreline on Richmond's end. But you never know. Again, stranger things can happen. 2 years ago, we were hot favourites to beat Richmond. Obviously, we were shit 2 years ago compared to now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not nervous at all. Richmond have
Yeah.
given us a lot of grief over the years. They've won games that they were $8 to win in 20 years ago. So it's historically a paranormal fixture. So I just hope that we can avoid potential disaster. I don't even view this being potential disaster. I think minimum 50 points would be worst case scenario.
I would hope so. I would hope so. Yeah, we might as well jump straight into a prediction because I don't think we're going to add much to this. It's a very straightforward, similar rinse and repeat to last week. Get in there and get the job done. Dose, who wins and who kicks the most goals?
Crows by 56, and I'm going to go a bit left field and say Josh Rochelle kicks the most goals.
Like it, like it. Matt, how about you, Matt?
Crows by 75 points, so slightly more than the last game, and I'll pick Rankin to kick 4 goals as our leading goal kicker for the night.
Lovely. I'm going to bump that up a bit because we are due for rain. I think it was 90% chance of 10 to 20 mils of rain on Saturday, as we've discussed previously. We're the wet weather specialists. So I'm going Crows by 112. And we're going to say Tex, I reckon, kicks a bag of 5 or 6 this week. Maybe that's a bit optimistic to go 112, but you know what? After last week, I'm feeling it against the bottom team. So we'll see how we go. Before we head off, anything else you boys want to touch on? Anything that's been on your mind about the Crows or anything in general?
I think we just keep it rolling. We've seen this a few times where we seem to have discovered a bit more positivity. We saw it after the bye, and then we kind of regressed back to old ways. And I think in this game, it was particularly notable in the third quarter when Essendon did kind of get the ascendancy for a bit. It was our doing. We sat back again and went into that real game management mode. So, just bringing the intent mentally as much as tactically is absolutely critical, and building that in these last couple of weeks headed into the final series, I think is just critical. And it's the one thing I've said a few times. I'm trying not to get too caught up in the week to week. So seeing that build headed into September for me is the most important thing now.
Yep. Tend to agree. Matt, how about you, Matt?
Yeah, similar to what Josh said. It was disappointing. Lost 2 weeks ago in our last home game against Collingwood. So, I mean, you can't really say beating Essendon and Richmond is a response from that. We need to look at the Fremantle game and say that's our game that we have to prove to the AFL world that we are still a genuine contender. And then we got GWS last game of the year, which, at that point in time could be a massive game for the Giants. So, yeah, there's 2 huge games to end the year. I have massive doubts that we win both of those games, but I'm very optimistic that if Freo do finish first come the end of this week, that we could win that game in Perth. But yeah, we'll win comfortably this week. There's generally nothing that could possibly make me think otherwise. I think Richmond, they've had their win, that they won't win again this year, I don't think. So yeah, I think it will be a comprehensive victory like against Essendon. But yeah, I'm like all of us, we've got our eyes set on the Freo game, I think, already.
Yep, totally agree, mate. Totally agree. Well, that'll do us for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Of course, the review of the Tigers game will be out probably Sunday night, Monday morning, I would say. At Proper Crows Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want to find us, get around us. Any comments, any feedback, welcome to hear. Josh, thank you for jumping on, mate.
All good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Indeed. And Matt, thank you.
No worries. I'll see you on Saturday night.
Indeed. Everyone get around the boys Saturday night at the Adelaide Oval. 7:05, big win coming up, hopefully. Go Crow.
Go Crow, boys.
Go Crow.